and this guy was awake the entire time. He realized he made a mistake at this precise moment. Then suddenly the old man was there. They were curious as to how their confidential discussion had come to light. They only discussed these topics with places that even their hired mercenaries were unaware of, so they weren't prepared for this. Jeju punched the monitor out of frustration and lost all control. He made a vow to make the person who did this regret their choice. The elderly man attempted to comfort his boss, but they had to conceal this from the GM group, so it was no longer a top concern. However, it appeared that there was no more time. It was his dad phoning. Jeju freaked out right away. He was at a loss for what to do. This man realized he was truly out of luck. This scandal spread throughout their nation, even making it to the Night Up news. The reporter also disclosed that the GM group was the real cause of this monopolization within Arcadia. As the public was informed by Ajin Electronics, the rumor was indeed true and they had purchased a significant amount of gold within the game. Additionally, the total amount of funds invested was made public. That was reportedly close to $750,000. Lee Myung, the CEO of Arcadia, stated that the GM group should now hold off on taking a position on this incident until after the Fair Trade Commission's investigation and the prosecutions. Their game had created quite a ruckus, which made this lady very amused. She believed that this was the first instance of reality being impacted by a virtual reality game. Now, the branch manager was questioning his boss about how smart this move was. Myung informed him that they could demonstrate to the world that other businesses couldn't simply target their offerings with this one. She grinned, wanting to see this through to the very end. The CEO was aware that the GM group would suffer greater losses the longer this problem persists. And in the interim, Arcadia will become more well-known and attract public interest. The branch manager believed that his boss's guts truly were the real deal. This woman wasn't particularly worried about what would happen to the GM group. In fact, the guy who uploaded the video now had her attention. Myung was aware that this adventurer was also responsible for the incidents involving the slime, the iron or and the burn ductum. The fact that one person was able to accomplish all of these feats and create history both inside and outside of the game piqued her curiosity. And inside his classroom, the enigmatic user to whom she was referring was just dozing off. Then suddenly there was Jun. He enthusiastically informed our MC about the hoarding event carried out by the GM group. Ying was a very talented actress. He put on the act of being ignorant of this. Jun continues to talk about how Arcadia's economy was strong enough to draw major corporations in the meantime. They would desire some degree of control over this priceless in-game asset. This guy asserted that Arcadia was no longer only a game. It had developed into an entirely new universe. Our MC was delighted to see his friend acting so enthusiastically. Something told him that everything was going as planned in the back of his mind. This was demonstrated by Jun's and every other player's response within Arcadia. Most importantly, interviews were now being sent to this haughty young master. Ying was pleased with himself for having given the guy a lesson. Then, our MC was distracted from this thought process by the sound of an unknown voice. It originated from a man identifying himself as Kang Paul Jun. He was an Arcadia researcher, and he will be the one to present the special lecture today. Although this didn't bother some of the students, Dex was really intrigued. They were going to learn some information about their course from someone from Arcadia. Meanwhile, back in Arcadia, Satan was already getting a little impatient since their master hadn't returned. Then he felt something approaching them, interrupting his nap. This familiar sensed a tremendous force emanating from those who were in close proximity to their location. Satan noticed the men marching towards the mansion after a short while. Already, their might matched that of hundreds of men. He made the decision to go hide first because he knew he wouldn't want to be involved in this. Then the legions of undead confronted the Holy Knight army under the command of the most senior knight. Ugudiel cleared this area right away using his Holy Light ability. His power was greater than that of the undead. The army of undead was nearly destroyed in a matter of seconds. Then, he knelt to honor his fallen Holy Knight, who had become undead. Ugudiel believed that if he had simply arrived here much sooner, none of this would have occurred. He also warned the other guards that there were many high-ranking undead in this area and that they would suffer severe consequences if they tried to enter the mansion. He gave the guards instructions to report this to the Pope right away. Ugudiel wished to notify the Holy Empire of the reappearance of a necromancer with historical significance. Now that we were back in the real world, the professor began his lecture from Arcadia. He is going to make a check that will alter these students' lives. Professor Kang Paul Jun talked about how the technology behind virtual reality was primarily related to the human brain. At that point, these two were communicating with one another and receiving simultaneous interpretations. However, he disclosed that these channels of communication might differ according to an individual's brain's ability to link to virtual reality. That simply meant that, in terms of technology, there will always be those with that talent. Ian showed a definite interest in this subject. It is now possible to measure the speed at which the brain and the device receive and send signals. The lecturer informed them that the term synchronization rate is currently in use. With this new criterion that could aid them in their course, the students were all very interested. The instructor then inquired as to whether anyone would be interested in having their synchro rate measured. Someone offered assistance by raising his hand. It was Kang Tzu, this one. Like Yun, he was a first-year student. While most of the girls found him attractive, other students were in awe of his bravery. Meanwhile, our MC noticed that Yi-jun was reacting differently. Later, Yi discovered that Kang Tzu attended the same class as Yi-jun. This guy was very well liked by all the girls and was typically the group leader. Our MC decided to break up the thought chain because he didn't think this guy was all that interesting. But he was startled by something. He said to Yi that he was excited to be in the same class as main character and that it was Kang Tzu. Then this guy went up front and explained the process to the professor. It was obvious to Yi that something was happening at the moment. Kang Tzu made an effort to irritate him. After pulling Jun, Kang led Tzu inside the capsule with the help of his assistant. They explained to everyone that the purpose of this apparatus was to gauge the rate of synchronization. Although there is still a more accurate device of this kind, the one they brought with them is already adequate. They also guaranteed everyone's safety throughout the test. They were about to begin, the professor announced with excitement to all of them. The light inside the capsule turned bright blue. Kang Tzu believed there was no use in taking this measurement as he already anticipated receiving a high score. Additionally, he will use this to demonstrate to everyone that he was much superior to everyone in the class. Since he doesn't really like them, he wanted to make sure that Yi-jun and his friend would begin to recognize him. People with eyes that give off the impression that they are only interested in themselves are hated by Kang Tzu. And for this one, our MC was the ideal illustration. While the capsule was scanning and measuring Kang Tzu's talent, he received a score of 21.35%. This guy was certain that he would take advantage of this opportunity to defeat Yi-jun. The average person would only receive about 10s, so the professor was quite taken aback. This rate was extremely high. The highest record, set by this guy nearby at 26%, was broken. Tzu emerged and began to express his gratitude to the professor for his flattery. Without wasting any more time, Professor Pajun asked the other students if they would like to give this one a try. But then Kang Tzu identified a specific person. He recommended that this man take the exam as well. Yi-jun was the one who did it. I believe that our MC had anticipated this event. Yi-jun apologized right away. Because of him, Kang Tzu was now pursuing Yi-jun. Yi-jun merely grinned and considered this to be a mildly entertaining game. Our boy had already entered the capsule at that point. This man grinned because he was prescient. Now, the rate of synchronization was increasing steadily. Its intense bright blue light started to come from it. Yi-jun was ecstatic with his observations. Professor Pajun's assistant was now in a panic, believing that the machine was already broken. However, the professor intervened. He was certain that this was not a mistake. The light eventually became less erratic, and the overall synchronization rate was astounding, 82.89%. Kang Pujun never imagined that a college student would just beat the record, which stood at 26%. In the meantime, this guy was perplexed. He was vanquished by main character. All of the other students in Yi-jun's class were in awe. Then Yi-jun emerged from the capsule. He thought his score was interesting, and he smiled. After a while, the lesson came to an end. Now that Choi Yi-ju had apologized to the media, our MC was holding his phone and reading the articles. Yi-jun was pleased with the outcome of the situation. He just gave some guys advice on how to be modest and kind. He observed something on his YouTube channel as well. His video has already received 88 million views, and it has greatly increased awareness of other nations. Yi-jun reasoned that since this channel was already making a lot of money, he wouldn't need to worry about money right now. He was aware that he wouldn't have to worry about paying his rent or for the capsule he had purchased with this. By trading plausibility for something that he can also sell to Satan and the elf, our MC could potentially make more money. He is shocked to learn that, as a college student, this may be his last chance to eat kimbap. Then he heard his name being yelled. Yi-jun was there, and he was still gasping for air after his run. His friend gave him congrats since it was evident from his score that he had defeated Kang Tzu. Now that Yi-jun was being discussed by all the professors, his synchronization rate was only 15%. Then, something that Yi-jun told him caught his attention. This guy believed his friend to be truly remarkable in every manner. He's now curious to know how Yi-jun would perform if he took up playing Arcadia. Upon hearing this query, our MC became quiet. Then, to Yi-jun's surprise, he disclosed that he was already playing Arcadia. There have been numerous instances recently where, when everything went as planned, he was able to impart some wisdom to certain guys. He's currently eating some delicious kimbap. Furthermore, the day's weather was fantastic. Moreover, our MC revealed to his friend that he had been playing Arcadia since open beta for additional reasons, either known or unknown. He also revealed to Yi-jun that Dex was his in-game name. This made the atmosphere around them uncomfortable. It took Ajin a few moments to comprehend what our MC had said to him. This guy remembered the nickname Dex and began to perspire. He recalled who Dex was, and a shiver ran down his spine. Every Korean online gamer knew this player. The player with the highest ranking across all available games was Dex. It was also him who overcame several professional teams. Additionally, Ajin believed that perhaps Ajin was just a fan of Dex because this player was too legendary. However, our MC maintained that he is in fact Dex. He simply erased all of his accounts, so he has nothing to show his friend to support this. Then, Ajin recalled that she had achieved an astounding 92% synchronization rate on the capsule. Everything began to make sense. This guy instantly knelt down because the score was more than sufficient evidence for him to accept Ajin's words. Then, Ajin yelled that he was going to get some signatures from the legendary Dex. The fact that his friend was a major fan of his troll accounts caught our MC off guard. Meanwhile, due to the numerous powerful monsters that lurked around in the Valley of Coldheart, it was advised that players level 85 in this area, and an expedition was currently attempting to clear this area. They were also in a panic because they had not anticipated there would be so many monsters here. Now, this group was searching for the necromancer who had requested that they bring in all of the monsters. Then this woman showed up and employed the Dark Swarm skill. Numerous zombie frogs began assaulting the nearby monsters. The explorers were in awe of what they were now witnessing. With just one skill, a black mage was able to defeat every monster by themselves. With white hair, this woman ranked first among black mages in the game at level 86. The name Black Flame Dragon of Darkness refers to her. She thanked the explorers for luring them after using her skill to defeat every monster. They then gave her a thank you as well. They expressed regret for not recognizing her sooner as well. She informed them that was not very significant. This high-level player was too kind, which made a positive energy around them, and they agreed right away when she asked if they could still assist her in enticing the monsters outside. Out of curiosity, this guy also asked her a question. He questioned whether the black mage had utilized all of her abilities to slay the monsters earlier. She disclosed that by the time they extract the monsters, her skill cooldown should have returned, meaning that everything should be fine. This woman could cast a high area of effect skill with a short cooldown, which impressed him at that point. He now realized why other people claimed that having a black mage with them would help players gain strength more quickly. In essence, they were being carried out by this influential class. Their hunt and leveling up session came to an end after some time. They then exchanged gratitude. Now, these guys were anticipating their upcoming hunt. It was now just the Black Flame Dragon of Darkness in this place. She yawned, realizing that this game was becoming monotonous at this point. Nothing noteworthy caught her attention when she checked her status window. She also witnessed the search for Duke Barhan's body. This one required an adventure that could find out if the black mage that killed him was indeed the culprit. This woman recognized Duke Barhan and finds it hard to comprehend that he is no longer with us. She considered completing this quest, but she quickly gave up since the player who started the incident ought to be very intelligent. Since no one knows for sure who he is, he even outwitted everyone in the Arcadia forums. She then questions who this player could actually be and what his true identity is. Her heart begins to race as she considers the likelihood that this incident was actually caused by a single person. However, she quickly abandoned the idea because, even for a ranker like her, this was truly unfeasible. The quest window then unexpectedly reappeared, startling him. A witch hunt was the name given to this linked quest. This was her mission alone. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness, the top block mage in the game, never anticipated seeing anything like this. She is now perplexed as to why the system assigned her such a task. Return to the Barhan Dukedom. These familiars were delighted to see their master once more. They have been waiting for Dex for a long time. He told them to first calm down after Satan and barraged them with facts. Dex was then reprimanded by the Demon King for using the Necromancer's power. He's confident that with this sinister presence around, people wouldn't just stand by and take no action. And El accepted what Satan said for the first time. The name of Lick Argamer was even on the Heaven's blacklist. She advised him not to make use of this ability once more. That particular statement infuriated Satan, and they got into another argument. When Satan reached his breaking point, he asked Elle if she was ready for a formal brawl. The angel informed the Demon King of their current score, and she would have been delighted to retell the tale. Right before our very own MC, the Second Holy Demonic War began. It occurred to him that there isn't a single day that is peaceful. Nevertheless, despite everything that has been going on, Dex was pleased that he could still interfere with the game. This implied that he would receive additional recognition and skill points. He also wants to spread the word about this death god's resurgence. This will undoubtedly make everyone inside Arcadia fearful. X grinned as he considered how the game's protagonists would respond. We had arrived in the Holy Empire after a day. Upon his return, Udil told the Pope and the Saintess about the events in Barhan Dukedom. He disclosed that Lick Argamer was the real culprit. Sylvia was startled to hear this name. What the saintess saw in her dreams was also verified by this report. The greatest necromancer in Arcadia was the Piece of Darkness. Because they have kept their power hidden from the public, the Pope was currently suffering from a headache. They believed that the lost sheep would eventually return to enlightenment and turn from their transgressions. However, people eventually began to wreak havoc on the planet. This circumstance had brought about a significant event in the game. The Pope then requested that this most important Holy Knight handle the matter immediately. He desired the judgment of all evils and their expulsion from this continent. Udil gave the Pope his word that he would try his hardest to complete this task. This officially reopened the conflict between good and evil. Additionally, a formal quest was distributed to every Arcadia player. Due to the deeds of the Argamer, the Holy Empire moved to subdue all evils. They now requested the adventurer's assistance in getting rid of the game's villains. This white-haired woman received her linked quest at the same time, and she is still unsure of how to proceed with it. There were two sides to the holy demonic war that broke out in Arcadia. The Holy Camp, home to the Holy Knights, was one of them. Priests and other groups associated with light. The Evil Camp, home to necromancers, undead warriors, and other classes with dark attributes, was situated on the opposite side. Naturally, there was animosity between the two sides. In fact, the players knew this going into the game. There were many conversations concerning one another's perspectives being raised. Players frequently suffered from player kill or PKs as a result of these conflicts. Since none of these events resulted in a full-scale conflict, they were all acceptable. The rules of the game have also been established to stop this kind of thing from happening. They designed the villages and towns to be secure areas for the players. The security troop and PCS will then punish those who commit crimes. Currently, however, there is a mysterious quest that encourages more conflicts between good and evil, along with a warning stating that the Pope has declared a full-scale war against all forms of evil. The restriction that forbade players from killing one another was momentarily lifted. It was evident that the Holy Empire's lone proclamation had upset the delicate balance of power between these two races. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness was still staring at the quest window when he returned to the snowy mountain. She finds it unbelievable that 50 million dark mages had to be used in order to complete this mission. This number was almost as large as the population of Korea, so she assumed the developers were already insane. Since this conflict persisted, she also intended to remain in the neighboring town for the time being. But a notice appeared as she approached the town. The Black Flame Dragon of Darkness discovered that this area was now a prohibited area. She was taken aback by the lifting of the no PK rule. This implied that this town was perilous as well. There was just a battle inside this town. The system rewarded this priest for defeating a player of the dark class. He then added his contribution to the total quest needed to reach the Holy Camp. He was happier now, and when he turned to look around, he noticed someone who attracted his attention. It was this woman with white hair. She was aware that this was not encouraging. Now she was the object of the gaze of every member of the Holy Camp. It was too late when she attempted to urge them to cool down and discuss this matter. A black mage had entered the town, and a security guard and a computer shouted to everyone in the town. The guards advanced quickly to assassinate her. The fact that even the NPCs were involved led her to conclude that this quest was extremely serious. Black Flame Dragon of Darkness was aware that she was left with no alternative. Using her Dark Swarm skill, she closed her eyes and dispatched these guards. Then a string of red alerts appeared. This woman's single strike had killed numerous players and NPCs. Her name was now emblazoned in red. That came too quickly, she's still gasping for air. This woman merely defended herself, but before she could gather her thoughts, an increasing number of players were moving in her direction. She decided that for the time being, she should just flee. While this was going on, Dex received notification of the most recent linked quest the game had produced in the area of Burhan Dukedom. When Satan saw this, he informed his master that this was the reason he had asked him to refrain from going too far. Our MC clarified that this was not his fault and that all he did was obtain additional quest rewards. Satan realized after hearing his justification that his master was actually a psychopath. They had just prodded the beehive, and now the Demon King realized they were in serious danger. All of this resulted from the power of Argamer. He paused and considered a way out. El was urged by Satan to take action in this regard. Before it was too late, he asked her to go mediate this one. He clarified that there was going to be a war. This was also merely the result of their master's careless use of their abilities. Although he believed that angels wouldn't approve of bloodshed, El saw nothing wrong with it since it offered them the opportunity to eradicate all evil entities. She even anticipated taking part in this mission. That particular moment served as a reminder to Satan that this angel resembled his master. Then Dex spoke. He was aware that this quest would not be easily concluded and carried some very strong feelings. And he began hurling his rage at Dex because Satan's race was in jeopardy. He informed his master that he was solely to blame for this and that Satan would never again grant him power if he did not take action to stop the war from breaking out. Our MC believed that since his familiar began acting strangely, this was actually becoming an issue. In the back of his mind, Satan is not far from the truth. Dex had no idea that it would have far more serious repercussions. Elle was then directly asked by Dex if she could take any action to address the issue. He even indicated a particular aspect of this quest that he wished to change. Currently, 50 million villains need to be judged by the Holy Camp as part of this quest. Regarding Dex, these folks essentially did nothing, and it would be incredibly unjust if the necromancer's power was the only reason they were killed. He went so far as to add, hate the sin, not the sinner. He even assured Elle that doing this favor would earn her a lot of credibility points. This familiar was waiting for only that statement. She informed her master that she would take action right away and quickly changed her mind. Elle was acting like, which is why Dex and Satan were wearing this expression on their faces. She received 15 plausibility points from RMC for this one. Elle left right away as soon as this notification appeared. She also transformed back into her former self and traveled to the Holy Empire. A short while later, this angel appeared to the god's followers as she descended from heaven. The inmates were all in shock at what they were witnessing. Sylvia was ecstatic and even more amazed. Elle began delivering her message to them at that point. This one, she claimed, was directly from God. She was going to make an announcement and she needed everyone to listen. And with that, the witch hunt's linked quest was changed. Upon seeing this notification, Dex was pleased. Satan hurried to observe how things transpired, but from the expression on his face, we could tell that something wasn't right. Dex was astounded by the modifications that Elle made. He asked if this was a real thing, questioning the system. In order to balance things out, our hero specifically asked that some requirements be changed. When these two witnessed what had happened, they were in shock. Elle reappeared shortly after as well. She was beaming broadly because she had simply followed her master's instructions. This angel exuded too much confidence and pride in her work. Meanwhile, these were the expressions of Satan and Dex. This was the new quest window for the witch hunt. I'll give you guys a moment to determine the actual change. There were now 49,999,900 players that needed to be evaluated. These two find it hard to comprehend that Elle just cut the number in half. Our hero was also let down because he had high expectations for that. Elle listened to their claims without flinching. She informed them that it was already a great mercy to have saved 100 lives from the evil camp. She was at a loss for a better offer. Then, Satan approached Elle and boldly challenged her to a duel. This angelic figure responded, though, by emphasizing the bad aspects of devils and pointing out that Satan's rage remained unabated despite her efforts to mediate the conflict. Inside, Dex just stood there. Now he wondered what kind of developers created the angel in this game. On the plus side, though, our hero made a discovery. He discovered that these entities were capable of materialization. He believed that he had not really wasted his 15 plausibility points. Then the game's biggest troll had an incredible idea. Dex had already started making plans. Our hero attracted the attention of Satan while these two were still fighting. Now, he was verifying whether Satan truly intended to aid the evil camp in this endeavor. Dex suggested to the devil that he might have a workable solution for this. Meanwhile, shouts from soldiers and players could be heard at the snow-capped mountains. They were finally able to corner the black mage, so they began to celebrate. These guys had a lot of pride. They were content because they were going to evaluate a member of the evil camp once more. The black flame dragon of darkness was the one they managed to corner. Considering how much of her MP she had lost in this protracted battle, this woman felt that she had made a mistake. Now she was limited to using 1 or 2 more skills. As she eliminated more of these players, she was also considering the penalties she would soon receive. On the other hand, she might not survive if she didn't take this action. Now, the black flame dragon of darkness was unsure of his next move. Now these players were coming toward her. As they considered the prize they would soon receive, they even smiled menacingly. This woman was the top block magician in the world. At that point, the player charged his attack. This was about to come to an abrupt end for him. There was really no way for the black flame dragon of darkness to avoid this one. And with that, she prepared for death. Her eyes began to well up with tears as well. However, nothing happened when she opened her eyes a few seconds later. She saw the devil standing in front of her right now. The dark flame dragon was in disbelief at what she was witnessing. Satan materialized and stopped the player's attack. This person was now thinking about who this devil was. They went so far as to consider the possibility that Satan is an imp. The king of all demons became enraged upon hearing this. Then, black spheres began to materialize close to the players. They were now unsure of the nature of this object. In a matter of seconds, these things burst. Now, these guys were really hurting. They were giving vent to their screams. The fact that this person called Satan an imp truly offended him. The other players believed that the demon in front of them was merely the block mage summoned entity. However, this was obviously untrue. The dark flame dragon was still in disbelief. She believed that this diminutive form of Satan was the most powerful of all the demons. Satan caught her attention when he saw that she was staring at him. He questioned the woman, asking if she truly was the dark flame dragon of darkness. The fact that this NPC knew her name perplexed the top block mage. She was aware of a problem. Then a stream of notifications filled her screen. She had just met the oldest darkness, the system informed her. She also arrived at a crucial juncture in the journey. Now, the black flame dragon of darkness was perplexed as to what the oldest darkness meant in terms of the system. It took her several moments to comprehend the true nature of the situation. Satan then counseled her to remain motionless. He was going to cut these players loose. After hearing these claims, these people experienced extreme pressure. This guy chose to call it quits right away because every second that passed was a waste of credibility. Satan was beginning to manifest his abilities. This old man began running towards her, believing that Satan was actually just a block mage summoned entity. He reasoned that this demon would vanish as well if he could vanquish her. A holy spell had been cast, and it was now moving in their direction. Satan had a moment of epiphany when these guys truly believed he was a summoned entity. He just ran out of things to say. The holy spell was then blocked by the dark shield that the devil had created. The players' attacks suddenly vanished, leaving them stunned. The black sphere that had been there for a while receded. Satan was now very irritated. These players were informed by the system that they were now surrounded by a corrupt aura. Their holy power attempted to resist, but in vain. Now, these men from the holy camp were becoming tainted. Not even their holy powers can be used by them. Then the devil spoke. He gave the order to kill all the corrupted. There was then a strange force applied to these ones because his words were absolute. Now their wills were being subjugated. Satan observed these guys from the holy camp and just stood there. He was a little let down as well because he thought these guys would put up more of a fight. He believed that he and humans are truly incapable of communicating. The only exception to this was his master. Then the dark flame dragon of darkness bowed her head and began to thank Satan. She was giving him thanks for keeping her alive. Even though it was their first meeting, this demon was acting strangely already, which made the other demon feel uncomfortable. She went on to say that she was already aware of this demon's identity. She added that she was a huge admirer of Satan. It was truly an honor for this woman to meet him. This one became envious of these compliments. He considered this woman to be pretty intelligent. Satan then got to work on his primary goal. He attested to the fact that among the adventurers, Black Flame Dragon of Darkness was the strongest block mage. Still, this one fell short of his standards. He believed that in terms of power, the evil camp had truly fallen. Then the Dark Flame Dragon of Black apologized. After accepting her apology, Satan advised her to pay close attention to what he had to say. This demon disclosed to her that he has a task for her. The Dark Flame Dragon became perplexed. She is unaware of what the devil was going to say. Then, according to Satan, this player will become the new embodiment of evil. Though she could already sense something sinister about this statement, she is still unsure of what to anticipate. An ancient black mage named Lin Arjamir sold his soul to the devil through a contract. He received eternal life from this one. He once covered the entire continent in blood throughout Arcadia's history, but someone brandishing this potent holy sword ultimately vanquished him. Maria, the holy saint's priestess, also rendered a verdict. She committed unpardonable sins while using the sacred light. Arjamir finds it hard to comprehend that a simple sword will be enough to defeat him. He then vowed to return and exact revenge on them for the humiliation he had endured. It feels like an eternity since this creature was brought under control. Lee Argrammer is confined to the lowest reaches of hell. He still harbors resentment toward being imprisoned after committing his crimes, even now. He said he never achieved the goals he set for himself. Now this guy was demanding still another opportunity to do as he pleased. Arjamir heard a voice a short while ago as he was pleading for mercy. It was none other than the appearance of Satan, the monarch of chaos. This person had shown up in his actual form. Arjamir became frightened because he hadn't anticipated encountering this powerful entity in his cell. He extended the highest respect to Satan. Then, this one disclosed that he had come here to work on a project involving this leech. Arjamir's head lit up, realizing what this meant. Then he thought they were going to launch an assault on the Holy Empire. But Satan was irritated by these presumptions. Gilbert was simply too nizzy. Then the monarch of chaos put an end to this leech's speech. He informed Arjamir that Satan already had to use too much applause power to bring this one back to Arcadia. He asserted that it was simply not feasible. The Demon King assured Arjamir that he would not do such a thing since it would bankrupt him. Arjamir cowered in fear. There was more than enough aura. Then he inquired as to what his master needed from him. Satan got closer to the leech and assured him that they would put on a fitting performance. It was disclosed that Arjamir intends to utilize a human body as a loan. They will be creating some issues in Arcadia, and after that, he will go back to hell. This one also forewarned the leech that he would undoubtedly perish if he ever did anything to escalate the situation, but not under Satan's control. The Demon King genuinely admitted that his master was a more powerful demon than he was. This statement caused Arcadia to consider who the demon was that was more evil than Satan. The person they were discussing was busy yawning in the